The small silver ship landed quietly in the empty field behind the Portland Community Center. It was 3 in the morning, and the only witness was a stray cat that quickly ran away. 5 figures stepped out of the ship, their skin a pale blue, color that seemed to glow slightly in the darkness. "Atmospheric composition confirmed safe for breathing," said the tallest one, checking a device on his wrist, "though I find the oxygen levels quite stimulating." This was Dr. Zigsal, lead xenobiologist for the Galactic Scientific Authority. He and his team had traveled 17 light years to study the creatures called humans. The GSA had watched Earth from far away for many years but had never studied humans up close, especially not their strange physical training practices. "Remember," Zigsal told his team, "we have permission from Earth's governments for this research. Our human guide will meet us here at sunrise. Until then, we should set up our equipment." The aliens worked quickly, setting up their monitoring devices and preparing their temporary lab inside the ship. As the sun began to rise, they saw a small vehicle approach. A human female stepped out and walked toward them without fear. "Hello?" she called with a smile. "I'm Samantha Miller. You must be the research team from the GSA." Zigsal stepped forward and placed his 3-fingered hand over his chest in greeting. "Yes, I am Dr. Zigsal, lead researcher. These are my colleagues, Milar, Vriksun, Paltak, and Nezi." Samantha nodded at each of them. "Welcome to Earth. I understand. You're here to study human exercise habits?" "Yes," said Zigsal. "Our preliminary observations from orbit have been concerning. We wish to understand why humans deliberately stress their bodies in what appears to be painful ways." Samantha laughed. "Well, that's one way to describe working out. I've been a fitness instructor for 10 years now. The community center where I teach has agreed to let you observe my classes and talk to the people who come there." "That would be most helpful," said Miller, the team's physiologist. She was shorter than Zigsal and had darker blue skin. "When can we begin?" "Right now, if you'd like," Samantha said. "My first class starts in 30 minutes. It's a beginner's strength training session." The aliens followed Samantha to the community center. They wore simple Earth clothes to blend in, though their blue skin and large eyes made that impossible. As they walked into the gym area, Samantha explained the basic equipment. "These are dumbbells and barbells for lifting. Those machines help target specific muscle groups. The mats are for floor exercises." Zigsal scanned everything with his device. "And humans use these objects to damage themselves?" "Not damage," Samantha corrected. "We challenge our muscles. When we lift weights or do other exercise, we create tiny tears in our muscle fibers. Then our bodies repair those tears, making the muscles stronger than before." The aliens looked at each other with expressions of shock. "You deliberately tear your body tissues?" asked Vriksun, the team's cultural specialist. "For what purpose?" "To get stronger, to look better, to be healthier," Samantha explained. "Some people do it to perform better in sports. Others do it to live longer and have fewer health problems." "Fascinating," said Zigsal. "On our world, pain is always avoided. It signals danger or damage. The idea of seeking it out for improvement is alien to us." Soon, humans began arriving for the class. They were all shapes and sizes, from young adults to elderly people. They changed into special exercise clothes and began warming up. Samantha introduced the aliens to the class. Most humans were friendly, though some seemed nervous. One older man named George came right up to Zigsal. "So you folks never exercise. Where you come from?" he asked. "We maintain our physical form through proper nutrition and medical treatments," Zigsal explained. "The idea of deliberately stressing the body to improve it does not exist in our culture." George laughed and patted his round stomach. "Well, my doctor says I need to stress this body a bit more or I'm headed for trouble. That's why I'm here." The class began, and the aliens watched with growing interest. Samantha led the humans through warm-up movements, then showed them how to use the weights properly. The aliens observed how the humans' faces changed as they lifted weights. They often looked like they were in pain. Why do they grimace like that? Miller asked quietly. They're pushing themselves, Samantha explained during a break. That look means they're working hard enough to make a change in their bodies. Paltak, the team's psychologist, moved closer to a young woman who was lifting a heavy weight over her head. Does that not hurt your muscles? He asked. The woman, who introduced herself as Kelly, put down the weight and smiled. Sure it does, but it's a good kind of hurt. Tomorrow I'll be sore, but next week I'll be able to lift more. You endure pain today for benefit tomorrow, Paltak said slowly, as if trying to understand a complex equation. Exactly, Kelly said. No pain, no gain, that's what we say. Nazy, the team's medical officer, scanned Kelly with a small device. Your body is releasing endorphins, natural pain relievers, and your muscle tissue shows micro tears forming already. Is that safe? Kelly asked, suddenly concerned. Yes, Nazy assured her. Your body is designed to repair such damage. It is just surprising that you would cause it on purpose. As the class continued, Zixal took careful notes on his tablet. He watched as the humans encouraged each other to do more repetitions or try heavier weights. They seemed to form a social bond through this shared difficulty. After the class ended, the sweaty humans talked happily with each other. Many looked tired but satisfied. I don't understand, Zixal said to Samantha. They appear pleased even though they just experienced physical stress. That's the runner's high. Or in this case, the lifter's high, Samantha explained. Exercise releases chemicals in our brains that make us feel good. Plus, there's the satisfaction of accomplishing something difficult. Later that day, Zixal sent his first report back to the GSA headquarters. Humans appear to have evolved an unusual relationship with physical stress. They deliberately seek out controlled amounts of pain and discomfort, believing it leads to improved physical condition. More research is needed, but this could explain their species' remarkable adaptability. They don't just endure hardship, they actively create it as a path to advancement. That night, as the aliens discussed their observations, Miller asked the question they were all thinking. If humans willingly stress their bodies to grow stronger, what other kinds of stress do they voluntarily seek? And what might our species learn from this approach? Zixal looked out the window at the twinkling lights of Portland. Tomorrow we will observe more advanced fitness activities. I suspect we have only begun to understand the human relationship with pain. The next morning, Zixal and his team arrived at a different facility. This one was larger and louder than the community center. The sign outside read, Ironworks Gym. Inside, humans were using much heavier weights and more complex machines. This is where more serious fitness enthusiasts train, Samantha explained as she led the aliens through the busy gym. Some of these people compete in strength sports. Others just want to push their limits. The aliens watched as humans grunted and strained under heavy barbells. Some had bodies that looked quite different from average humans with unusually large muscles and very little fat. That man there, Miller pointed discreetly. His muscle development is extreme compared to the humans we saw yesterday. Samantha nodded. That's Joe Rivera. He's been lifting weights for over 20 years. He works construction during the day, then comes here almost every evening. Zixal tilted his head in confusion. He performs physical labor as an occupation, then comes here to perform more physical labor? Let's ask him, Samantha suggested, and waved Joe over. Joe put down the heavy weights he was lifting and walked toward them, wiping sweat from his face with a small towel. He was a broad-shouldered man with strong arms and a friendly smile. You must be the alien research team I've been hearing about, Joe said, extending his hand. After a moment of hesitation, Zixal reached out his three-fingered hand and they shook. Samantha tells me you're studying how humans exercise. Yes, said Zixal. We are particularly curious about your routine. You work in construction, which already requires physical exertion, correct? Joe nodded. I've been building houses for 25 years. Then why do you come here and exert yourself further? Asked Frixoon. Would rest not be more logical? Joe thought for a moment. Different kind of work, I guess. On the job, I'm using my body for practical purposes. Here, I'm specifically trying, To get stronger and maintain my health. Plus, it clears my mind. Problems that seem big before I work out often seem smaller after. You find mental benefits in physical stress? Paltak asked with great interest. Can you explain this connection? It's like... Joe paused, searching for words. When my body is working hard, my mind focuses just on that. All the day's stress has to wait outside, and there's something satisfying about lifting more this month than I could last month. Shows me I'm still improving even at 45. Zixal made notes on his tablet. Fascinating. Your species uses physical stress as a form of mental relief. After Joe returned to his workout, the aliens moved through the gym, observing different activities. They saw people running on machines that went nowhere, lifting weights in careful patterns and spinning furiously on stationary bicycles. In one area, a group was doing something very different. They were jumping onto boxes, swinging from bars, and moving quickly between different exercises with little rest. This is CrossFit, Samantha explained. It combines different types of exercise into high-intensity workouts. The aliens watched as one woman finished her routine and collapsed onto the floor, breathing heavily. Is she injured? Nazi asked with concern, moving toward the woman with a medical scanner. No, Samantha laughed. That's Katie. She's fine, just exhausted. That's actually considered a sign of a good workout in CrossFit. Nazi scanned Katie anyway and looked at the results with surprise. Her heart rate is elevated. Stress hormones are high, yet her brain is releasing pleasure chemicals. This is a very confusing physiological state. Katie sat up and grinned at the aliens. First time seeing CrossFit? Yeah, it looks crazy, but it's the best feeling in the world when you finish. You enjoy the sensation of complete exhaustion? Zixal asked. Not during, Katie admitted. During is pretty awful sometimes, but right after. When you know you pushed through something really hard, that's amazing. Later that day, the aliens visited a different area of the gym where older humans were working with professional helpers. This is physical therapy, Samantha explained. These people are recovering from injuries or surgeries. They watched as an elderly woman winced while stretching her arm with the help of a young man in a uniform. That appears painful, observed Mueller. May we speak with her? Asked Zixal. The woman, who introduced herself as Betty, was happy to talk. I fell and broke my shoulder 3 months ago, she explained. Now I have to do these exercises to get my range of motion back. But they cause you pain, said Zixal. Yes, Betty nodded. But less pain each week. If I don't do this now, I'll have pain and limited movement for the rest of my life. So you endure short-term discomfort for long-term benefit, Paltak noted. This is a common theme we are observing. That's life, isn't it? Betty said with a smile. Nothing worth having comes without some effort. That evening, the alien team gathered in their ship to discuss their findings. I have analyzed our data from the first 2 days, said Mueller, displaying charts on a screen. Humans appear to have distinct categories of physical stress they voluntarily undertake. Some for strength, some for endurance, some for recovery, some for what they call functional fitness. And they all involve discomfort, added Paltak. Yet the humans associate this discomfort with progress. It's a remarkable psychological adaptation. On our world, Fricksoon noted, we evolved to avoid all unnecessary energy expenditure and any form of physical stress. Our medical technology handles any muscular deterioration. But these humans actively fight against comfort. Zixal stood and paced the small meeting room. What if our evolutionary path was not optimal? We avoided pain and discomfort, while humans embrace certain forms of it as information. Information? Asked Nazi. Yes, said Zixal. For them, the pain of exercise is not a warning to stop. It's feedback that change is occurring. The burning sensation in muscles tells them they are at the edge of their current capacity, which is exactly where growth happens. The next morning, the team met Samantha at a large park where dozens of humans were running on a path that circled a lake. Today we'll look at cardiovascular exercise, Samantha said. These people are running not for transportation but for health and fitness. Zixal. watched the runners with growing interest. Some ran smoothly, breathing easily. Others struggled, their faces showing strain. The ones who appear to be suffering, he asked. Are they beginners? Some are, Samantha explained. Others are pushing their limits. See that woman there? That's Linda. She's training for a marathon. They approached Linda as she slowed down to drink water. Her face was red and she was breathing hard. 40 minutes. New record. For 5 miles, she managed between breaths. Why push so hard? Asked Milar. You appear to be in distress. Linda smiled through her exhaustion. Because last month, I couldn't do this. Next month, I want to go faster. As they continued their observations throughout the day, the aliens began to see a pattern that fascinated them. Humans not only accepted certain kinds of pain, they actually used it as a compass pointing toward growth. I believe, Zixal said, as they watched a group of yoga practitioners holding difficult poses, we are witnessing one of the key factors that makes humans such a remarkably adaptive species. They have befriended discomfort in a way our kind never did. After 1 week on Earth, Zixal decided it was time to expand their research. The team would split up to observe different fitness activities around the world. They needed to know if the patterns they saw in Portland were common to all humans, or just a local custom. I will send our findings to the Galactic Scientific Authority tonight, Zixal told his team. They are very interested in our discoveries so far. Miller would travel to a place called Boston to study long-distance runners. Vrixun was assigned to observe team sports in Chicago. Paltak would visit elderly exercise groups in Florida. Nezi would study combat training in a military base in Texas. Zixal himself would remain in Portland but visit more specialized fitness centers. Before they separated, Samantha gave each alien a small communication device. This will help you. Contact me if you have questions, she explained. And remember, most humans will be curious about you but friendly. The next morning, Miller arrived in Boston. Her guide was a human female named Lisa Patel, who led a running club. Lisa took Miller to a path by a river where many humans gathered early in the morning. We meet here every Saturday for our long runs, Lisa explained. Today we're doing 20 miles as part of marathon training. Milar watched with interest as the humans stretched and talked excitedly before their run. You seem happy about running such a long distance, she observed. Well, it will hurt later, Lisa admitted. But we do it together, which makes it easier. And there's nothing like the feeling of accomplishment when you finish. As the runners started their journey, Miller followed in a small floating device that Samantha had arranged for her. She recorded the humans' conversations as they ran. At first they talked and laughed together, but as the miles passed they grew quieter, focusing on their breathing and movement. After 3 hours the group finally returned to their starting point. Many collapsed on the grass, breathing heavily. Some could barely walk. Miller scanned them with her medical device and was shocked by the results. Your bodies are showing signs of extreme stress, she told Lisa. Muscle tissue damage, depleted energy stores, elevated stress hormones. Yet you do this voluntarily? Lisa nodded and took a long drink of water. 20 miles is tough, but next week we'll do 22 and it will make today feel easier in comparison. By the time the actual marathon comes, we'll be ready for the full 26 miles. And you find this enjoyable? Miller asked. Lisa thought for a moment. Parts of it, yes. The feeling of running smoothly when your body is working well. The friendships we build by suffering together. And definitely the sense of achievement when you cross that finish line. That night, Miller sent her report to Zixal. Humans appear to form strong social bonds through shared physical hardship. They motivate each other to continue when discomfort would cause most species to stop. They call this camaraderie and value it highly. Meanwhile, Nazi had arrived at the military training base in Texas. She was permitted to observe new recruits during their physical training. Her guide was Sergeant Daniel Garcia, a human male with a loud voice and strict manner. These men and women have volunteered to become soldiers, Sergeant Garcia explained. My job is to make sure they're physically and mentally tough enough for that role. Nezi watched as the young humans ran in formation. did many push-ups, and climbed over walls. When some began to slow down or show signs of fatigue, Sergeant Garcia would shout at them. "Is that not counterproductive?" Nezzy asked. "Causing additional stress when they are already struggling?" "Actually, it works," said the sergeant. "Sometimes people think they've reached their limit when they've only used about 60% of their potential. A little extra motivation helps them find what's left." Nezzy observed that when one recruit would begin to falter, others would offer encouragement. "Keep going, Martinez, you got this," they would say. Or, "We finish together. Nobody gets left behind." Later, she asked one exhausted recruit named Paul why he continued when his body clearly wanted to stop. "2 reasons," Paul said between heavy breaths. "First, I don't want to let my team down. Second, I know this is making me stronger for the real challenges that will come later." Nezzy sent her report to Zixal that evening. Humans use social pressure as both positive and negative motivation to push through physical limits. They seem to perform better in groups than alone, drawing strength from each other's determination. In Florida, Paltak was surprised to find humans in their 70s and 80s still engaging in regular exercise. "I have lived 76 years, explained Ruth, a woman who attended daily water aerobics classes. "If I don't keep moving, my body starts to fail faster. Exercise keeps me independent." Paltak watched as elderly humans lifted light weights, stretched carefully, and moved their bodies in water. Their exercises were less intense than younger humans, but they still pushed themselves to mild discomfort. "Do you not earn the right to rest at your age?" Paltak asked one man named Harold who was using a rowing machine. Harold laughed. "Rest is for the grave, my blue friend. I've got grandchildren to keep up with and places still to see. Can't do that if I let myself go soft." Paltak's report noted, "Humans continue voluntary physical stress well into old age, believing it extends their functional lifespan. They accept the paradox that to feel better, they must first endure discomfort." In Chicago, Vrixun was watching a basketball game between 2 local teams. The humans ran back and forth across the court for hours, sweating profusely and often colliding with each other. "They risk injury for this game," Vrixun observed to his guide, a coach named Alan. "Any worthwhile activity has risks," Alan replied. "Team sports teach people to push through fatigue, work together, and handle both winning and losing. The physical challenge is just part of the learning experience." Vrixun noted how the crowd cheered loudly when players made especially difficult movements or continued despite obvious exhaustion. "Your culture celebrates those who endure the most," he observed. "We celebrate those who give their best effort," Alan corrected. "Sometimes that means pushing through pain. Sometimes it means playing smart instead of hard. But yes, we admire determination." Back in Portland, Zixal visited a place called Ultimate Fitness Challenge, where humans participated in obstacle courses that combined many difficult physical tasks. "They must climb walls, crawl under wire, carry heavy objects, and run through mud," explained the center's owner, Karen. "It's the ultimate test of all-around fitness." Zixal watched as humans emerged from the course covered in dirt, scratched, and exhausted. Yet they were smiling and congratulating each other. "Why do they look happy when they have just experienced such difficulty?" he asked Karen. "Because they proved something to themselves," she said. "Every time you finish something you weren't sure you could do, you get a little stronger mentally. That stays with you when life gets hard in other ways." That night, when all the aliens shared their findings, a clear pattern emerged. Across ages, regions, and types of exercise, humans consistently used physical stress as a path to improvement. They had developed countless ways to challenge themselves, always pushing just beyond their current capabilities. "I believe," Zixal told his team, "we are witnessing something fundamental to human nature. They have an unusual relationship with discomfort. Where other species, including our own, avoid pain whenever possible, humans have learned to use certain kinds of pain as a tool for growth." The next day, the team reunited in Portland to prepare for the next phase of their research, a controlled scientific study of human limits. With permission from Earth scientific authorities, Zixal and his team began setting up their experiment. They called it the breaking point study. They wanted to understand exactly how far humans would push themselves and why some could endure more than others. "We need volunteers from different backgrounds," Zixal explained to Samantha. "People with varying fitness levels and experience." Samantha helped spread the word, and soon 50 humans had signed up for the study. Among them was Frank Donovan, a 38-year-old accountant who rarely exercised, and Olivia Washington, a 28-year-old competitive weightlifter. The aliens converted part of their ship into a testing facility with various exercise equipment. They added their advanced monitoring devices that could track everything happening inside the human body during physical stress. On the first day of the YAO experiment, Frank arrived looking nervous. "I'm not sure why I volunteered," he admitted to Milar, who was handling the intake process. "I guess I was curious about alien science, but I should warn you, I'm not very fit." "That makes you a perfect subject," Milar assured him. "We need to understand the full range of human capabilities." Meanwhile, Olivia was talking confidently with Nezzy. "I can squat twice my body weight and run a 6-minute mile," she said. "I'm interested to see what your tests show about my limits." The aliens had designed a carefully controlled program. Each human would perform increasingly difficult exercises while the aliens monitored their physiological and psychological responses. The goal was to find each person's breaking point, the moment when they chose to stop despite encouragement to continue. Frank went first on the treadmill test. He began at a slow walk, but every 2 minutes, the speed increased slightly. First, he was comfortable and talked easily with Zixal, who walked alongside him. "So your species never developed exercise?" Frank asked. "No," replied Zixal. "Our bodies maintain themselves when we provide proper nutrition. We avoid unnecessary exertion and any form of discomfort." "Sounds nice," Frank said, now breathing a bit harder as the treadmill speed increased. By the 15-minute mark, Frank was running and no longer able to talk. His face showed clear signs of distress. Sweat soaked his shirt, and his breathing became labored. The aliens watched their monitors with fascination. "His heart rate is approaching what humans consider the maximum safe level," noted Nezzy. "Stress, hormones are elevated. Muscle fibers are showing fatigue." "Shall we stop the test?" asked Paltak. "No," said Zixal. "Our agreement with the volunteers is clear. They continue until they choose to stop, as long as they remain within safe physiological parameters." At the 20-minute mark, Frank was running faster than he had in years. His face showed pain and his form was deteriorating. Finally, he slapped the emergency stop button on the treadmill. "I'm done," he gasped, bending over with his hands on his knees. "Can't go further." The aliens recorded the moment carefully. "What made you decide to stop?" Zixal asked when Frank could breathe normally again. Frank thought for a moment. "It wasn't just the physical pain. It was knowing I couldn't maintain that pace much longer. My form was getting bad. I was afraid I might fall." Later that day, Olivia took the same test. She ran easily for 30 minutes, maintaining good form even as the speed increased. When she finally hit her breaking point, it was at a much higher intensity than Frank's. "Fascinating," said Milar, comparing the data. "Their physiological responses follow similar patterns, but they occur at very different thresholds." Over the next 2 weeks, the aliens put all 50 volunteers through various tests. They tested strength, endurance, flexibility, and recovery. Some exercises were familiar to the humans, while others were new challenges designed by the aliens. What surprised the research team most was what happened after the initial tests. When they invited the volunteers back for a second round, almost everyone returned, even those who had struggled the most. "I thought Frank might not come back," Zixal confided to Samantha. "His first experience appeared quite unpleasant." "But that's the point," Samantha explained. "Many humans are driven to overcome what defeated them before." Sure enough, Frank arrived for his second test looking determined. "I've been practicing," he told Miller. "I think I can do better today." And he did. His breaking point came 3 minutes later than in the first test. When he stepped off the treadmill this time, he was smiling despite his exhaustion. Did you enjoy that experience? Paltak asked, genuinely confused. Not the pain part, Frank admitted. But knowing I improved? That feels great. Meanwhile, Olivia was pushing herself to new limits on the strength tests. The aliens watched in amazement as she lifted weights that would have seriously injured other volunteers. How do you know when to stop? Nazi asked her. Olivia adjusted her lifting belt. There's pain that tells you you're getting stronger and pain that tells you you're getting injured. Learning the difference is part of training. After 3 weeks, the team had collected enormous amounts of data. They gathered in their ship to analyze what they had learned. The variation between individuals is remarkable, noted Mealer, displaying charts on the screen. Some humans reach their breaking point quickly, while others can endure much longer. Yet almost all of them showed improvement when they returned for repeated tests, added Nezi. Their capacity for adaptation is impressive. The most interesting finding, said Zixal, is in the brain activity. When humans approach their breaking point, there is a battle between different brain regions. The physical pain signals say stop, but other areas can override this command. It's as if they have evolved to mistrust their own pain signals, Frixun observed. Not mistrust, Paltak corrected. They've learned to interpret pain differently. For them, some types of pain are not warnings but progress indicators. The final test was designed to measure how social factors affected performance. The aliens divided the volunteers into 3 groups. The first group exercised alone. The second group exercised with silent observers. The third group exercised with active encouragement from others. The results were clear. Humans pushed closer to their physical limits when others encouraged them. Their breaking points extended significantly further when they received positive social feedback. This explains much of what we observed in real-world settings, said Zixal. Humans have evolved to use social connections as a tool to overcome physical limitations. At the end of the experiment, the aliens held a gathering for all the volunteers. They shared some of their findings and thanked the humans for their participation. Frank approached Zixal during the event.
Has this research changed how you think about us? Zixal considered the question carefully. Yes. We initially thought humans were behaving irrationally by seeking discomfort. Now we understand it is a sophisticated adaptation strategy. You use
controlled stress to trigger improvement, and you've developed cultural systems to support this process. Will your people try it? Frank asked. That, said Zixal, is the most interesting question of all. After 3 months on Earth, it was time for Zixal and his team to return home. They had gathered more data than they expected, and made discoveries that would change how their species viewed humans forever. On their last day, Zixal met with Dr. Laura Evans, the human scientist who had helped arrange their research visit. Your findings will be shared with our scientific community, Laura assured him as they walked through a quiet park. I think many humans will be interested in how you see us, and I will present our full report to the Galactic Scientific Authority, said Zixal. But I believe our discoveries go beyond simple fitness practices. How so? Laura asked. Zixal stopped walking and looked up at the blue sky. We came to study human physical training. We thought it was strange that you deliberately cause yourselves discomfort. But now we understand this pattern extends far beyond exercise. Laura nodded. You mean how we approach challenges in general? Exactly, said Zixal. Your entire civilization follows this model. You identify problems, painful conditions, then deliberately engage with them until solved. When your species began using the scientific method, your technological advancement accelerated dramatically. Science is structured discomfort-seeking. Laura had never thought of it that way before. I suppose you're right. We test ideas by trying to prove them wrong. We learn by making mistakes. Our species evolved differently, Zixal explained. We avoid all unnecessary discomfort. Our technology developed to remove pain and effort from life. But we may have lost something important in the process. That afternoon, the alien team gathered at their ship for a final meeting with several human scientists and the volunteers who had participated in their study. Zixal prepared to share some of their key findings. The humans sat on chairs in front of the ship while the 5 aliens stood together. Many of the faces had become familiar to them over the past months. Frank, Olivia, Samantha, Joe, and others who had helped them understand human fitness culture. When we first arrived, Zixal began, we were confused by human exercise. Why? Would an intelligent species deliberately seek discomfort? It seemed illogical. But now we understand that humans have a unique relationship with pain and difficulty. He displayed some images from their research on a large screen. Humans straining under weights, running until exhaustion, helping each other through challenging obstacles. What we discovered is that humans have evolved to use pain as information, rather than just a warning. You interpret certain kinds of discomfort as signals of growth. Where my species seeks to eliminate all pain, yours has learned to distinguish between destructive pain and constructive pain. Frank raised his hand. So your people never push themselves past comfortable limits? Rarely, admitted Zixal. We avoid situations that cause physical or mental strain. Our medical technology handles bodily maintenance, but watching humans, I wonder if our comfort has limited our potential. Mealer stepped forward to share some of their data. We found that humans who regularly engage with physical challenges show greater resilience in all areas of life. Their pain tolerance increases, yes, but so does their problem-solving ability and emotional stability. The social component was especially interesting, added Paltak. Humans push far beyond their individual limits when supported by others. You have built complex social structures around shared challenge. What will your people do with this information? Asked Olivia. The aliens looked at each other. This was a question they had discussed privately. The Galactic Scientific Authority will review our findings, said Zixal. But speaking personally, I believe our species should reconsider our relationship with comfort. Perhaps we have been too quick to avoid all forms of stress. You're going to recommend that your people start exercising? Asked Joe with surprise. In a way, Zixal replied. Not just physical exercise, but a broader willingness to engage with difficulty rather than avoid it. Your species' remarkable adaptability comes partly from this ability to use stress as a growth mechanism. After the presentation, the humans and aliens shared a meal together. The aliens had grown accustomed to Earth food, though they still found some tastes strange. As they ate, conversations flowed easily between species that had once seemed so different. Near the end of the evening, Samantha approached Zixal with a small package. I have something for you, she said. A going-away present. Zixal unwrapped it carefully and found a pair of running shoes sized for his 3-toed feet. I had them custom-made, Samantha explained with a smile. Just in case you want to try. Some human-style exercise when you get home. Zixal held the shoes carefully. Thank you. I believe I will. Early the next morning, before most humans were awake, Zixal left his ship alone. He put on the running shoes and walked to the park where he had first met Samantha months ago. After some hesitation, he began to jog slowly around the lake. It felt strange at first. His body was not used to this kind of movement. Soon, he felt his breathing quicken and his muscles begin to complain. A mild burning sensation spread through his legs. In the past, he would have stopped immediately at such discomfort. But now, remembering what he had learned, Zixal pushed on. 5 minutes passed, then 10. The discomfort remained but did not worsen. He found a rhythm to his movement and breathing. He completed his first lap around the lake. He was surprised to see Samantha waiting on the path. She was dressed in running clothes too. I thought you might come here, she said. Mind if I join you? Together, they ran another lap. Zixal was breathing hard now, feeling sensations his body had never experienced before. How do you feel? Samantha asked as they slowed to a walk. Zixal considered the question carefully. Strange. Tired, but also alert, present. Samantha nodded. That's a good start. As the sun rose higher, they walked back to the ship where the rest of the alien team was preparing for departure. Will you come back to Earth someday? Samantha asked as they said their goodbyes. I believe we will, said Zixal. There is much more to learn from humans. Hours later, As their ship left Earth's atmosphere, Zixal looked down at the blue planet, growing smaller below them. He thought about all they had discovered about humans and their unusual approach to growth through challenge. The final line of his report to the Galactic Scientific Authority read, "Humans have developed a sophisticated, cultural and biological relationship with discomfort. They do not merely endure pain when necessary, they have learned to use it as a compass pointing toward growth. This may be their species' most remarkable adaptation, and one that our own kind would be wise to consider. For humans understand, something we have forgotten, that across the universe pain is often just part of the journey,